All right, our next phase of the Dog Kennel Greenhouse is going to be doing the roof using these frame pieces from a portable garage. Now, at first I thought this kennel was 10 by 10, but from the way it appears it's really a 12 by 12, so I can't use these sections as is. I'm going to have to lengthen these bars. All this right here, all that's going to have to be lengthened a little bit in order to allow each of these four sections to span across the whole unit. So, with that in mind, I found extra pieces from the portable garage that I'm going to use to lengthen these whole spans of roof frame so I could cover these gaps between one side and the other. So, these other two little pieces right here are going to be the spine of the roof, if you want to call it that goes along the middle, all along these sections right here to link all that together. So, also another thing to point out, these are going to be the end pieces for pretty obvious reasons, and these sections obviously are the middle sections. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and get started breaking some of this stuff down and figuring out how I'm going to attach these curved end pieces to the walls so I could go ahead and start putting stuff together and cutting and measuring all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and hop to it. Alright, so far we got the two end frame pieces for the roof set up. I still do have to put carriage bolts in these elbows right here, and same thing there and on the other one. But as you can see, what I actually ended up doing was using the same brackets that were used to hold the portable garage together. I used them on the frame of the chain link panels of the dog kennel. I just had to drill holes in order to mount them up with the same carriage bolts that were used before. As far as the frame is concerned, as stated before, I had to put longer poles on here, and funny thing is, after measuring it, the dog kennel is a 10-foot panel. What I realized with the portable garage was it tapers at the roof, so really the roof is probably about 9 feet, between 8 and 9 feet wide, while it's only 10 feet at the bottom. Kind of like a play on measurements or whatever on Harbor Freight's part, so it's not truly a 10-foot wide garage, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. But I ended up having to put longer poles on there and then trim them down so they can fit in the fittings where they sit. The peak right there lines up with a small mark I put on here to mark the center point, 5 feet. And then same thing here. This panel here is obviously the center point right there where that vertical pole is at, and it more or less lines up. You know, you're going to be off an inch or two, but the point is we got everything situated just like that on this end. So with these two ends on, after I put the carriage bolts in place to fully hold these frames up, I'm going to go ahead, measure, and do these two middle sections that I want to do, and get up there to put the middle portion of the frame in and wrap up the roof. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on with the work. Alright, well, we got the roof frame done. As you can see, all four sections are bolted up using the brackets as I mentioned before. And I also have the spine of the roof, middle section, whatever you want to call it. I don't know that terminology quite yet, but either way it goes, I have it done. I had to drill some extra holes to be able to put the bolts in a few spots, as well as trim these pieces of pipe down in order to get them where I need them to be, and of course drill holes to secure them. But all in all, the whole roof frame is done. Now, like I mentioned before, more than likely I'm probably going to just use some drop cloth or some high thickness mill, you know, they come in mill ratings, but UV resistant plastic that I could use to cover this roof up in the winter time and be able to remove it in the summertime so it doesn't become an oven in here. But even like right now, once I get the walls up and get everything wired up, plumbing ran and all that, get my little raised beds and everything I want to put in here, I could immediately use this thing, as well as in the winter time, cover it all up and have a full-blown greenhouse to grow stuff through the winter. Well, now the next thing is I'm gonna go ahead next thing is I'm gonna have to go ahead and put some plastic down over this ground here. I'll see if I could rake out some of this loose grass, but put some plastic down to cover the ground up, and even have it come up the sides a few inches, and have a bed that I could put some gravel down, put a good layer of gravel down, and be able to keep future grass and weeds from growing up through here. I'm probably going to have to spray something on these other little errant weeds that are showing between the chain link fencing material and the panels to kill that stuff off. And then more than likely I'll also put some plastic around the outside. I'll move these drum beds out of the way, put some plastic on the ground the same way, so I could put gravel down over that and further keep any more weeds from popping up before putting the drums back in place. Same thing there with the strawberry planters. But we are well on our way, so I'm going to go ahead and start working on the floor here. Alright, well, today it's raining, and as you can see, we got a lot of water everywhere. But right now, I took an old tarp that I had that was very large, laid it out enough so that I could cut a good patch out of it to spread out inside the greenhouse frame, with enough to actually go up the sides a little bit. And as you could also see, I'm starting to spread gravel over this to help hold everything down and create the bed that I wanted to do. So even though there's water everywhere, the more gravel I lay, the more this water will no longer be a problem. Of course, I'll have to do the same thing at the doorway too, but that's neither here or there. But right now we're just focusing on getting the gravel inside here. So I'm going to continue with the spreading of the gravel, and I'll be back in a jiffy. Alright, got all the gravel spread out, even got a tad bit at the doorway here. I barely had just enough to cover this whole area. I'm probably going to still have to come back over some of these spots because the ground underneath the tarp is pretty soupy, so the ground shifts even with the gravel on top. So I'll have to continually walk over this area to help settle the gravel and everything, and then come back with more gravel to fill in the depressions and dips in the overall patch of gravel here. So, but all in all, we got the gravel laid down, have the plastic down. So at this point, I'm probably going to start gathering materials so I could start making some raised beds and other stuff to put up in here while I wait for an opportunity to get my hands on some more corrugated sheet metal to finish the walls. So that will be the next thing, equipping the inside.